Hey, it's Tomer, and we just got the Face Commanders leading the new Final Fantasy Commander precons. For those who don't know, Final Fantasy is coming to Magic the Gathering, and we're getting 4 brand new Commander precons and a main set to go with it. Each precon comes in a regular version and a super fancy collector's version. The regular version, I think, is MSRP $70 per precon, and the collector's version is $150 per precon. That's the same price point as the Warhammer precons, I believe. It's super high, but at the same time, pre-orders have already been sold out, so there's insane hype for this Final Fantasy set. Now, we're going to check out the face commanders of the 4 precons, but if you're interested in all the other previews, you can head on over to mtgpreviews.com. You'll find everything there, and if you want to hear just chatter about the main set cards, Seth is doing videos covering the main set cards over on the main Goldfish channel. I'll have a link to that in the video description. All right, we begin with Cloud X Soldier. This is a 5-mana Naya 4/4 legendary creature human soldier mercenary. It has haste, and when it enters, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to it, and whenever Cloud attacks, draw a card for each equipped attacking creature you control. Then if Cloud has power 7 or greater, creates 2 treasure tokens. So full disclaimer, I'm not like a huge Final Fantasy guy. I've watched my brother play all of Final Fantasy VII, so I'm very well aware of those characters, including Cloud. I personally played most of Final Fantasy VIII. I was addicted to like the card minigame in that thing, and I only progress a story so I can progress the card minigame aspect of it. I don't think I actually beat the game. I think I got very close to the end, and then like I beat as much as I wanted of the card minigame, and I dropped that game. Final Fantasy IX, I played up until the first disc. I had a bird's copy of Final Fantasy IX. It was like 3 CDs or something like that. And I remember distinctly there was like some epic like cutscene / battle at the end of the first disc. And when you beat the boss, you have to switch into the second disc, and that version was faulty. And so I only beat the first disc of it, but I really liked it. And that's it. That's all I know of Final Fantasy. But anyway, Cloud, definitely know flavor-wise what he's all about. And in terms of card function, Cloud is an interesting mix between go wide and Voltron equipment strategies. You kind of want to be a little bit Voltron-y with Cloud because you want to have his power 7 or greater, because then you'll make some treasure tokens. But at the same time, if you want to maximize the card draw potential of Cloud, you also want to be attacking with multiple equipped creatures. The more equipped creatures you're attacking with, the more cards you're drawing. So you can actually build him either Voltron or go wide. Both are quite valid. And your Naya, which is kind of unique for equipment decks. Equipment decks are primarily Boros. Naya means you have access to Broken Green Ramp. You don't really have that much equipment support in green, but you have access to Broken Green Ramp, which means, you know, Cloud costs 5 mana, which is on the expensive side, but it's essentially like a 3 mana commander in non-green decks. Like the green ramp potential is really, really high. So yeah, it's a nice mixture of go wide and Voltron. My most greatest comparison point would be other go wide equipment decks. We have a lot of those. By the way, the alt arts on the face commanders are really sick. I really like this version of the Cloud art, especially. It's very, very cool. But anyway, back to the cards. Since it's like go wide equipment, you could compare it to like a Kiri, Sir Gwyn, Dogmeat. All of these say like the more equipped creatures you're attacking with, the more cards you're drawing and stuff. In the case of Dogmeat, your card draw comes through junk tokens instead. So that's a comparison point. But also, Cloud does make treasure tokens if you could get him to 7 or more power. So there's a little bit of a Voltron inclination there too. Power-wise, I think he fits very snugly between all of these, honestly. Maybe a little bit weaker than Sir Gwyn. But then again, you can't really discount how good having access to green is. I think having access to green over black is just such a huge jump over like a Sir Gwyn deck. But yeah, Cloud's quite strong, but nothing like super game changer or anything. He's not significantly more powerful than any other equipment commander that's go widey. And I think there's better Voltron equipment commanders out there compared to him, but he's still very, very solid. We'll move on to the next one. The next face commander is going to be a Mardu deck led by Terra, Herald Hope. It's a 3-mana legendary creature, human wizard warrior. It's a 3/3. It has trance. At the beginning of combat on your turn, mill 2 cards. Terra gains flying until end of turn. And then whenever Terra deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2 mana. When you do, return target creature card with power 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So immediately, Terra is easiest comparison point is Alicia, who smiles at death, and Terra is just like a 2025 Powercraft version of Alicia, which is like a decade old at this point. They're both 3 mana. They both care about power, like small power creatures and reanimating them for 2 mana. And they're both like attack/combat triggers. Alicia has a small benefit of that creature entering attacking, which can or cannot be a bad thing, honestly. Whereas Terra has a larger or an easier restriction. You have power 3 or less compared to power 2 or less of Alicia. The mana cost is less color intensive. It's too generic as opposed to white-black hybrid twice. And Terra comes in with built-in evasion, which is like probably the biggest sticking point over here. It's self-mill, so it can put targets into the graveyard for you, and then it has evasion when you're swinging in for damage. Whereas in an Alicia deck, you have to have like multiple card slots dedicated to just giving all your creatures evasion, because a 3/2 first striker's not going to be doing that much attacking, and also the small creatures you're bringing in also need to have some sort of evasion, or you have to give them evasion, otherwise they're just going to go into a chump blocker and die. So yeah, Terra, I think, is just like a strict upgrade to Alicia, and I think most Alicia players, unless they really believe in the old school coolness of Alicia, if you're just going for power, Terra is just a better version of it, and you can just swap to that, I guess. In terms of things you're going to be reanimating, stuff like Karmic Guide, stuff that have high mana value but very low power cost but very powerful effects are the things you're most likely going to be reanimating with Terra. So Karmic Guide is one of the best versions. It's 5 mana worth of value, but it's a 2-power creature, so Terra can just reanimate it for just 2 mana, and then you can reanimate something else as soon as Karmic Guide enters the battlefield. Grim Hireling, it's a 4-mana spell. It has 3 power, perfect for Terra. As soon as you deal damage with Terra, you're making at least 2 treasure tokens, and if you manage to hit 2 or more your other opponents as well, you can make even more treasures, so that's amazing. And then Terra also works particularly well with extra combat triggers, or like double strike in this case. Lizard Blades, for example, is a fantastic card for Terra, because not only is it a creature that you could reanimate with Terra, but also you could equip it onto Terra and you give her double strike, which means you could have 2 reanimation triggers each time you're swinging in for damage. So Terra, just a very powerful commander, a strong self-mill reanimate utility commander, I would say. It just basically take your Alicia deck, make some minor tweaks to it, because you can reanimate even more things with it, and it's just a better version of it, basically. The next face commander is Tidus, Yuna's Guardian. This is a Bance counters commander. It's a legendary creature, human warrior. It's a 3/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may move a counter from target creature you control onto a second target creature you control. And as cheer, whenever one or more creatures you control with counters on them deal combat damage to a player, you may draw a card and proliferate. Do this only once each turn. So Tidus is a lot of steady value in a counters matters deck. It's not as interesting in a +1/+1 counters deck, honestly. You want to have focus on other more interesting keyword counters, I think would be the best way of building it. But for 3 mana, with a very small hoop, you have to have a creature with a counter on it. You deal combat damage to a player, you draw a card, you proliferate. That's a lot of value on a 3-drop. The downside is that Tidus doesn't provide any counters himself. So you have to find some ways of putting counters on your creatures, swinging in with them. And then Tidus provides a ton of value. Proliferate every single turn is very powerful. Drawing a card every single turn is very powerful. It's good value, but you have to work for it. Now, type of cards you're going to be wanting to do with Tidus is Falco Sparrow, which I accidentally slipped. Falco Sparrow comes with a counter and also gives you additional uses of counters. And I mean, it's also in banned colors. It's a very easy inclusion in the 99. And then you want to look for counters that are very powerful, more than just +1/+1 counters. The best one, the best of the best, is absolutely indestructible counters, right? It's one of the best forms of protection for your board. And if you have an indestructible counter on any of your creatures and you're starting to proliferate them, then Tidus can start moving those extra counters onto other creatures to give more of your creatures, more of your board indestructible. So one of the best inclusions by far is going to be Tekethal Inquiry Dominus. It lets you proliferate twice whenever you proliferate. So it's a Panther monocard for proliferate. So it works very well with Tidus's proliferate effect. And it could also generate indestructible counters. You can put one on Tekethal, and then once you start proliferating and you got multiple counters, indestructible counters, you can start moving them to other creatures with Tidus. So that's probably the best card you can add to the 99. And then other cards like Arwen, Mortal Queen, it comes with indestructible counters, and you can cash it in for a lifelink counter as well. So if you have extra indestructible counters, you could just like cash in the indestructible counter, get a lifelink counter, proliferate that, move that over onto other creatures. So yeah. Tidus is very interesting. It's going to be counters mattering, but you want to focus on keyword counters over +1/+1 counters to really get value out of it. And then the final new commander is definitely the strongest of the bunch. It's Y'shtola, Knights Blessed. It's an Esper commander, 4 mana, legendary creature, Cat Warlock. It's a 2/4 with Vigilance. And at the beginning of each end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, you may draw a card. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana 3 or greater, Y'shtola deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. So Y'shtola is non-creature matters. Also, mana value 3 matters, and then if you're doing that, you're draining the table, and as long as you're draining the table for 4 or more life each turn, you're drawing a card. So you could draw a card not only on your turn, but also on your opponent's turns. So in a 4-player game, if you manage to make your any opponent lose 4 life on a turn, you're going to be drawing a card for each person's turn. So you can draw up to 4 cards per turn cycle if you live the dream. But even if you're not doing that, if you're just like draining the table for 4 each turn on your own turn and drawing a card, Y'shtola's already like kind of bananas for 4 mana. But yeah, the potential here is incredibly high. The best cards that work well with Y'shtola are stuff that are obviously non-creature spells, mana value 3 or greater, that you can cast for less mana or for free. So something like Bolts the Citadel is probably spelling GG if Y'shtola is on the battlefield. Not only does it trigger Y'shtola by itself, but if you have just a bunch of non-creature spells on top of your library that are mana value 3 or greater, you just start casting them for 0 mana, and the life loss is offset by the life gained by Y'shtola's ability, and you're just going to be draining out the table and killing them very quickly. And then obviously like busted free spells like Fierce Guardianship, Flawless Maneuver just get even better with Y'shtola, because every single time you're doing that, you're draining your opponents and possibly even drawing extra cards off them. Other things you can do with it, because this is not a drain effect, this is a deal damage effect. Curiosity cards are really good with Y'shtola because if you drain each opponent for 2 with its secondary ability, you're also going to be drawing a card for each opponent dealt damage this way. So you like, if you have 3 opponents again, you drain everybody for 2 with Y'shtola's ability, and then you draw 3 extra cards of Curiosity, which is just disgusting. There's quite a few of these in Esper colors, I believe. Like there's Curiosity, Ophidian's Eye, Tandem Lookout. I think there's also like Sleeper's Robe, and I think maybe like a Azorius version of it too. There's a lot of ways you can you draw a bajillion cards off Y'shtola with these type of aura effects. And then if you want to like focus on like life gain or something, Angelica Chord is right there. Whenever you're drawing cards off Y'shtola's ability, you're also making 4/4s, and then you like Exquisite Blood combo people to death too. So I would say Y'shtola is definitely the breakout commander of the set. Definitely the most busted if you build her in a more optimized manner. So yeah, I think this is going to be the most popular commander. It's also going to be the kill on sight commander too. You really just can't allow Y'shtola to live because she could just drain out the table super quickly. And those are the face commanders of the new commander precons. I don't know when the deck lists are going to be revealed. If I find that information, I'll posted in the video description. But yeah, these cards look very sweet. They're not reinventing the wheel or anything, but they look really cool. Also, the main set cards are even more impressive in my opinion. I'm not like a super huge like Final Fantasy buff or anything, but they look good, and hopefully lore-wise, they very much fit what the characters are trying to do in the game. Let me know what you think of them in the comment section. Also, apologies if I sound really terrible. I'm sick, and I just came off like a, what was it, like a 16-hour excursion in an airport/airplane as things got delayed and canceled forever. So yeah, I'm a little bit, I sound a little bit bad right now, and probably might have misread or said something dumb. So please excuse me, at least for this video. I have an excuse this time. But yeah, I'll be back with more Final Fantasy goodness as soon as they reveal more of the cards. So be sure to like and subscribe if you don't want to miss any Commander content as it comes out. And until next time, friends, see ya!